Hello and welcome to a slightly different EUR video. We are in the Imladris campaign, but that's more just for something as a backdrop and to show some points. This is going to be a review of EUR as a mod. I've got some notes in front of me of some stuff that I particularly want to mention. Yeah, so I'm just going to, do a little brief disclaimer first. So obviously I know the dev team well. I've been not directly involved in the development, but I've put a bit of creative input in here and there. And yeah, so I do have a slight proximity. Might be some bias there, but I'm going to be as objective as I can in this review, and it's not all going to be all sunshine and roses. If you disagree with any of my points, then that's absolutely amazing. Yeah, this is ultimately just my opinion. I am not a professional reviewer. I just happen to be a guy who's played the mod and thought I'd share my opinions on it. Because it's one ways I made the channel effectively, so I thought it'd be quite interesting to do this. So let's get into it. I'm going to load up my phone. It's got the first point in it. And I'm going to start with the positives. I feel like that's a good thing to do. We're not going to go for the shit sandwich approach and mix them in. We're just going to go straight up. Is a shit sandwich a thing that's mentioned outside of the UK? Like, yeah, I think so, because it's more of a pop culture TV reference than a British one, isn't it? But anyway, first things first, we'll go over to the Blue Crag. I think that the Blue Crag are a fantastic shake-up for the game. Uh, this side of the map has always been bloody boring, and the fact that there is now an evil faction here, definitely, one, it gives the elves more to do, but also Ered Luin. Um, yeah, I'm not, well, I'm 50-50 on the inclusion of the dwarves in the Blue Crag as a choice. Like, it's kind of law breaking, and I think they could have done it in a bit of a more interesting way. Well, I say kind of law breaking; it is very law breaking, really. But I'm not too worried about that. But I feel like they could have done it a bit more interestingly, potentially. Like, there was one thing which I suggested, which they decided not to follow through with, but it could have been a different way of doing it, but added a lot of complexity. So we'll see what they did. Was that you have your settlements, and then you were predominantly dwarven, but you could build these orc slave camps effectively, where an EOP settlement or a fort or something would spawn on the map, and you'd get your orcs from there. Like, they were established as a separate undercast; they weren't like mixed in, sort of thing. Like, yeah, I think that they could have picked a more interesting route for portraying that, but the addition of the Blue Crag overall, fantastic. Uh, yeah, I don't like some of the balancing ways that they've done here. Like, it seems really silly to me that there's no crossing for this river. That was a balance thing. It was done so that you can't just immediately rush over to Harland or Doyland, vice versa if you're playing as the elves. But I don't think that's too much of a worry anyway. Like, if we look at this garrison, there's seven elite units locked in here for all of eternity, which are going to be holding that. We've seen the Blue Crag roster here on the channel. They're competent, but they're not beating seven elite elven units on defensive this early on. Like, that's just not going to happen. The same for all of their other settlements as well. There's so many strong garrisons. I mean, this is all garrisons. You got like over a full stack of units here, all of them elite, especially those nobles. Like, they'll shred anything. So yeah, I don't like the decision to make that cut off. I think it just overly simplifies it and it forces you to go this way, and then you've only really got one avenue for attack. And it doesn't really work too well anyway, because the amount of naval invasions that Lyndon's done in the Blue Crag campaign, I think they've managed 3 by like turn 40. It might have been 2. I think it was 2 actually, where they've come down there and done a naval invasion. So, like, it looks like they've even done it here potentially at Ragost. So you still end up in a position where there are incursions happening through this point quite early on. But yeah, overall, I think that the idea to add that there was fantastic. And then what was next on my list? I don't really know how long this video is going to be, by the way. Might be a while. Quality of life script. Yeah, this one's a doozy. There was some of the stuff which I really like the addition of being able to see the money you're making each turn here. It's so convenient. It's just like in modern Total War games. One of the things in that does suck a bit more about Med 2 is that this is hidden away. Given it is one of the most important things, like you would expect it to be here, so it's nice that it is. And then as well, if we go into a settlement, it's really nice just being able to see your culture there. Like there's some really cool stuff. Potentially, I wouldn't have put this in this scroll. I would have just had it where if you select the settlement, it displays it down here. There's quite a lot of dead space on this bar, which could be used for menus. But you know, what am I to? That is really a nitpicky thing, and it's still much more convenient than having to go into. Oh, I've gone into the wrong menu. I'm that used to not clicking it, having to go into here and then hover over to find out your cultural percentage. It's just a it's one of the more clunky things about this being an older game. Additionally, all of the UI stuff that's been added, it all looks really nice and professional. Like, this is all very, very fitting for the elves, of course. Yeah, it's done. It's made well. I don't really understand for the general upgrades here. You don't really get much visibility for how you actually upgrade. Like, I know it's a mix of like the amount of generals, like, kills they've got, the amount of battles that they've won, and their loyalty and charisma. It's a mix of their stats. I think it's command and renown, actually. It kind of uses that to create a score to establish what rank they should be. But you don't really get the most visibility. It'd be quite nice if that score was shown like with a bar across there, like a progress bar, and it's something that's quite easily done with ImGUI, which is what this menu's made in. In case anyone didn't know, I've done similar stuff for Gondor at War with the general upgrades that I've made. There might be a bit of bias there because I'd want it to be more like what I've made because I made it how I like it. But you know, it is a clean UI. It does what it needs to do. There's a lot of scripts like that have been added. So yeah, the quality of life scripts, like the upgrades so your units stay relevant. Elves. It's all very cool, and it works well. So I definitely would put that in the positives. My phone keeps closing, so I'm just babbling a little bit to load of time. And then there's several other overhauls as well. So we've mentioned Blue Crag being new, but both Linden and High Elves, Linden and Imladris are brand new, of course. Well, I say brand new. A lot of the stuff is brand new. A lot of it's, you know what I mean. There's always been stuff there. They've been split, and it does make things play differently. Like in the past when I've played Imladris, I always used to rush goblins, which to be fair we still did that. It just took longer. And I'll just try sweep up as many rebel settlements over here as possible to get Glorfindel as quickly as possible to go kill the goblins with. And that obviously didn't work. So that's well, I say it didn't work. I had to play it differently, but that's good. I've enjoyed the situation of just having Imladris. I prefer it when it's just Imladris on its own for a high elf campaign. I still wouldn't play Linden, I don't think. No, I know that now they've got the Blue Crag to fight, but I don't think it's as interesting as playing as the High Elves in Imladris. But I'm sure there's plenty of people who've enjoyed the Linden campaign, and it's good that it's there, of course. So yeah, they've had an overhaul. Angmar have also had an overhaul. The situation is quite different, I think. I assume it's how Armalitsky implemented it elsewhere. You start with just Litash, and then you have to go outwards from there. I don't know if it's the same for EUR. And obviously all of their roster, well, effectively all of their roster is new. Loads of new units. Coward. Oh, this pipe might be a pain. Sorry, I'm in Let's Play mode there. Yeah, all new visuals, loads of new units, and he's done an amazing job of them, so it's great to see that there. There's also Eriador, who've not really got a great example of them here, have I? They're almost dead in the campaign. They've not done too hot. But they're here, and they've got a just completely new setup, new scripts, new roster. Well, less new, but still new stuff to it, and that's cool. It's a interesting approach, and it's nice to have Eriador back. They obviously In Moss, it was United Eriador and Third Age Total War before then, but those mods have been dead for what? I think the last Third Age Total War release, and I'm not going to count Third Age 4.0, Third Age 3.2, I think that was what, 2012, so 14 years ago. Moss, I'm not sure off the top of my head, I think that was like 2015, 16, maybe. And then we've not had it Free Peoples of Eriador since then, so it's cool to see a return. And yeah, it's a different campaign experience, and that will be substantially different to what's in DAC or AGO, and that's a good thing. I've actually had several people asking me to play it, so say I must admit I'm not massively keen on that one for the next campaign. After I finish up one of the two that I'm doing at the moment, simply because we've already done two in Eriador. I'd rather explore a different theatre, potentially a different submod, we'll see. But I'm getting sidetracked there. New Eriador is cool. And then there was one other faction I think got an overhaul. Sorry, I'm terrible at checking my notes. So the only ones I've got recorded are those three for overhauls. But then for visual overhauls, we got Erid Lewin. They've had the port from Third Age Total War, not Third Age Total War. Reforged, I believe. So they've got new visuals, which they look fantastic. They're a cool unit. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked again. And then on top of that, Woodland Realm. They're all new. They were commissioned from Louis Lux. And also Isengard, same boat, all Louis Lux's work.
Is that what you want? He's done a really
cool job with these guys. So, I don't even... Oh, I have seen those before, I just didn't recognise them for a second. So yeah, there's an absolute ton of visual overhauls that have gone into factions which needed it. Like, the Isengard, they've not been touched since when? When would it be? I think they're from Third Age originally, the Urukai models, and admittedly they did hold up well. They did look good, but yeah, it's nice to see them updated after what, almost 15 years. People's modding techniques have come a long way since then. I think it might actually have been Louis Lux. So in case you didn't know, he was actually a developer for Third Age Total War. So I think he's possible that he did the original Isengard as well, and has just gone back and redone his work 15 years later. Which, if that's true, that's pretty cool. Not to guarantee it is true, of course. I didn't mention this, but also Gondor. You may have heard me talk of a little submod called Gondor at War. Obviously, that is the best submod ever made. I will not elaborate on why, or if I have any personal bias. Spoiler alert, I do. But all of the visuals from Gondor at War have been, I say all of, a lot of the visuals from there have been ported. So you'll see loads of new looks for Gondor from there. And yeah, they're also a very, well, I think the visuals are great from Gondor at War.
I am a warrior.
I've had a little bit of creative, I say a little bit. I'm active in the creative input. Most of these are, I think the infantry's by Larinian, the kit bashes are by Maverick. Yeah, they're all looking hunky dory.
Although I don't.
No, those are all the original visuals. Wild Riders, nice. I don't know all the units in the UR. it's a lot. So yeah, there's so many visual overhauls. And between Blue Crag, Isengard, Angmar, and I think that was it for the evil visual overhauls. I say that's it. Oh, and Moria. Moria got all new visuals, but I can't show them in this campaign. That's astounding. Like 4 new visual evil factions, and that's probably more love than any single mod has given any of the evil factions, probably since Third Age Total War dropped. Like, there's always the good factions to get the spotlight, so it's awesome to see that they've got a load of new stuff for the evil guys. So yeah, I'm very, very much pro that. Also, there's a lot of creativity and cool stuff that's been made for some of these rosters. Is there any examples in there? I'm looking for some specific units. I probably won't find. But the trolls for the Blue Crag, not the mountain trolls, but the actual like the ones powering the siege towers, or the ones with the artillery on their backs. That's stuff we've never seen before in Medieval 2 Total War, as far as I'm aware. I think they were all like the animations for that stuff was done by Perry. I may need a correction on that one, we'll see. But I'm pretty confident in saying that it was done by Perry, and that's awesome. Genuinely, like, so cool to see those stuff. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on them in the Blue Crag campaign when we finally make some money. And as well, with Proj with the flails, I mentioned this in the video for them the other day, where he got the flail working by binding the sword. Sorry, I'm not a modeler. I don't do any rigging, so I might get the terminology wrong. But basically, he bound the sword to the elbow, by the end of the sword, so that as the elbow moves, it breaks the sword and bends it. And then obviously they don't actually have a sword, they have a flail. So as the arm moves, the flail flops about everywhere in a way. So he's basically got a brand new weapon type out of a existing animation with minimal work in a way that no one's done before, just by being clever about it. I think no one's ever done it before. I've never seen it, at least. So again, that's awesome. There's so much creative stuff that people have done to get stuff working in this mod. That's awesome to see. Then, what's next? I've already mentioned about Evil getting more love than they have for the past 10 years. So yeah, in terms of new content, there's stuff everywhere. There's probably at least one faction that you're interested in playing that's got new stuff that you're interested in playing with, and that's a very cool position for any mod to be in. Like, DAC probably could never say the same thing. They tended to focus on one overhaul at a time. You do get that to an extent with EUR, but the amount of stuff that they've pumped everywhere is insane. I don't want to undersell the amount of work that's gone into this mod. It's been in development since V1 for what, 2 years? I think 2 years, and they've changed it so much since then. Like, to me, version 1 was largely unplayable. I know that it was popular and with its clientele, but I didn't like it much. I didn't like the port from Reforged for the AA to just turn them into Numenorians effectively. Yeah, and all of the chaotic balance and the random ports. It wasn't the mod for me. It had its audience, not my cup of tea. But I hold version 2 in much higher esteem with all the extra stuff that's gone into it. It's gone from a collection of fuck, let's pump everything we can into here, to being an actual, like, let's make something focused. For the most part focused. We'll get into that. And they've added a lot to the community by making EUR. Right, so I think that's pretty much everything on the positives front that I want to say. And then on to the negatives. That sounds really negative. I don't like doing this. This is not anything that I'm not trying to be hateful to EUR or the EUR team. It's just my honest opinions. I know that a ton of hard work has gone in by everyone involved, and a lot of this is going to be a matter of taste. But yeah, I've checked my notes with the members of with some of the EUR team, and they're happy for me to do this. So none of this is coming from a bad place. I just feel like I hate giving negative feedback. So, the first thing that I wanted to mention is that the dev team has been quite chaotic post-launch. Some of the members haven't reacted to feedback too well. Some of them have been absolutely smashing it. I've had good chats with. I'm not going to name names even when it's positive. Just to keep it fair and even and balanced. But some of the members I've been like, they've been like, yep, you're right, we'll do that. It's been done in an hour. Some of them has been much more hesitant to feedback and just shut down a bit. This isn't just in regards to my own feedback, but from what I've seen about people posting about stuff they've liked or not liked. Sometimes the response has been, "This is how it is," and obviously, let me think how to phrase this. It's good to have your own direction in a mod. Ultimately, none of us are getting paid to mod. We're making what we want to play and what we think would be good to play. But I've just had a notification. I've been processing the latest Blue Crag, High Elf episode in the background. I'm just going to double check that hasn't released right now. Okay, it's still only a draft. That's good. Cool. It's not got a title or anything at the moment. So if I had a notification come through that it was blocked in some countries. All of my videos have been blocked in Russia and Belarus. I can't think why. Anyway, so back to my tangent. Well, sorry, back off my tangent to what I was talking about. Yeah, everyone is making what they want to play and what they would think is best, rather than what other people want to play, because ultimately, it's a passion project, isn't it? Like your own. I've always said as well, as a modder, your own ideas are superior to the people who are making suggestions or giving feedback, because you're the one who's actually doing the work. Like if they were that keen on your idea, on their idea, and you didn't want to implement it, that's cool. That's where sub-modders come in. Like a lot of the stuff that I've modded in have been because, well, initially it was stuff that I was thinking about, like I had problems with, and then I knew that it wasn't going to get done if I didn't do it, because other people didn't share my vision necessarily, or they didn't want to prioritize it over their own stuff. So I was like, oh, I'll just work with Gondor Reward to get stuff happening. So there is always going to be that attitude of modders first. That's my attitude, and I think it should be any dev team's attitude. But yeah, I think that it comes with a level of respect as well. You need to be careful with how you're responding to feedback. Even if you disagree with it, it's important to still be polite. And I don't think that they've done a particularly good job of that in some cases. Some of the dev team have been absolutely great and crushing it as ever. Some of them have been a bit more standoffish about how feedback has been, and that's quite unfortunate. But hey, yo, I know that several hundred bugs have been fixed since this version. I'm playing quite an old version. This was technically a beta, because I started the Blue Crag Let's Play before the mod released. So they've done an absolute ton of fixes as well since I've been playing. But I can't go forwards because it would break my saves, and I don't want to disappoint the viewers, and I don't want to start over either. So I haven't updated. So that's one thing to bear in mind as well with this feedback section. So yeah, the response to feedback has been a bit mixed, and I think that's a bit unfortunate. But I wouldn't put that on. These aren't in any particular list, or well, they are on the list, but not in any particular order. I wouldn't put that as like my highest grudge against. Well, there's no grudge. You know what I mean. So don't read too much into it. And then post launch as well. It's common knowledge at this point, but as I think I can talk about, it's just fine. The leadership's been pulling back in EUR, and I think that the vacuum hasn't been filled too well. Just today, for example, well, Perry has announced that he's retiring from EUR. He wants to have a bit more time for his family and so on, I believe, which is an admirable position. No one's going to complain about that. Well, it's a shame that he's not doing as much, of course, but life. Anyway, I'm babbling. So he's stepping back quite significantly. Coventus as well. He had a couple months where he went away. He's become more active again recently, but in the development side, I don't know how much he's actually doing at the moment, in all honesty. And then the rest of the team in the EUR filling in the cracks, from what I can see. I'm just speaking on what I've seen on general channels and so on. But that's just led to some general chaos. There's been talks about we're moving to M2EX when the general vision's been not to move to M2EX, which has been one thing. Then today, as a prime example, you had a patch go out with no patch notes to fix a game break. Well, I say game breaking, but fix a large issue after some that was broken by fixing some smaller issues that weren't actually real issues. They were more just little quality of life things. So there's no real good communication. Well, I say there's no good communication. There's mixed levels of communication, and I don't think that's been the most ideal post-launch response. Yeah, patch notes are always a good thing, so people know what they're actually downloading, like whether it's going to be save game compatible or so on. I think that a lot of people have had their saves broken without realising it by downloading patches for EUR, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, on the flip side of the coin, at least they are putting out patches and they are fixing a lot. So they are actively responding to feedback. And they're somewhat contrary to what I was saying just now, of course. Yeah, but they are responding to feedback. They are fixing bugs. they're doing what a dev team should be doing in that regard. It just needs a bit more coordination and probably some more testing before patches go out potentially. But it's hard to get a round of testing done, isn't it? Especially when people have there's just been announced. Like, it's easier to get buying for testing when it's a new, exciting, shiny beta everyone wants to play. It's harder to get people doing testing when they're just paying a fix for something that's otherwise identical to what they're playing anyway. Like, why would you test? So yeah, that's one thing. And then finally, I say finally, but this is the big one for me under negatives. I've been finding the balance dreadful, in all honesty. Like, let's find an Edway farmy.
Tired of ordering your
We'll
own
find the cause
about,
of all my problems in a recent episode of the Blue Crag campaign.
Your subject.
No, wrong one. But yeah, I don't think the balance has been well done in the EUR at all. I've just clicked on the same army twice, I think.
We come in peace, noble one.
Yeah. So for a bit of context, version 1 was quite well renowned for its balance issues. They were quite frequently, they were just abundant.
Lord? I am a warrior.
I can't find these anyway. I'm looking for one of Filani chariots. But the guy who stepped up for doing the EUR balancing, and fair play to him for stepping up. It was a massive undertaking. And, you know, he did get it done. The mod has been entirely rebalanced, for better or worse. But he achieved what he set out to achieve, and that is admirable. But I think the actual outcome of that has been very questionable, in all honesty. I can't find this bloody chariot in any one of these armies. But as a prime example, the Filani chariots, they have 9 HP. It's been fixed in the most recent patch, I believe, after I complained about it. It's been brought down to 4 HP, which is what I suggested to Perry in a private conversation. But even then, when we looked at the DAC stuff, they have 2 HP in DAC, and I think they're a pain in the arse in that mod and all. But I'm not really a chariot person. But the balancing was done by someone who hasn't played much Med 2 and doesn't know much about the lore as well. So you end up in a position where you have really weak elves, or absurdly overpowered chariots. There was one time when we were talking about back when he was implementing the balance, he didn't know what Relentless was, so he hadn't factored that in for anything. So you had Grey Company with insanely large with insanely large attack, because he didn't know they were solid like that. And then the General's Bodyguards for Gondor. That's a really good example, isn't it? It's got a custom one.
Do I remind you of
or even just the Gondor infantry. Let's start with that. This unit is a generic one. No upgrades at all. 9321. Then if we go over to our barracks and compare him to Elite Elves, we'll remember 9321. I think it's the Noldor swords. Yeah. 10-4-27. So they're better, but I would expect a larger difference in the quality between tier 2 Gondor and tier 3 elves. Then if you consider that they're 117 men compared to 152, I think it was for Gondor. It might even been 160 odd. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys would lose in a 1v1 to a Gondor infantry unit. And this is somewhat, from my understanding, this is somewhat intentional from the balancing. The same goes for the veterans. There was 9 attack for those Gondor infantry. So they have a... Oh, fair enough, 10 attack. Oh, but that's with 1 experience. So these also have 9 attack normally. So, like, it's just absurd, some of the stats that have come out of this balance, especially... I think that for the most part for men it's alright, but it's dragged down a lot at the higher end for elves and dwarves. The difference in quality between a Gondor infantryman, where he's basically a normal man, he's got good equipment, he'll be well trained, he'll be a good capable soldier, but compare that to a thousands of year old professional Noldor elven soldier who's probably been on God knows how many campaigns, potentially old enough to fought against the Witch King in the north, potentially old enough to have helped at the Last Alliance, potentially old enough to have fucked off over here and done a load of stuff. That's a really, really great way to describe Balerion, didn't it? But if you think about the breadth and depth of experience that these Elven guys have, the high end, the elite end of the spectrum, they should be absolute machines, uncomparable to anything else. So to see them be even in the question as to whether they equal Gondor infantry is insane to me. And then if we go to the bodyguards here, I'm determined to find a generic bodyguard. You're not going to have one. No, you're not either. You're going to have the Benin Marines. But they do look cool, so I wanted to see them. I'm not going to be able to find out. I should have just done this in custom battle. Come on. Come on. Yes! So, these guys, that's about equal stats to the Noldor veterans, which again, I don't think they should be on that level. I just don't see it. They've literally got the same attack as the two-handed Elven swords. And for a 150-man unit that is a bodyguard, I think the one thing that DAC got right was making bodyguards smaller so that they were less capable frontline troops. This is insanely strong for a bodyguard. And then if you compare that to the bodyguard for, say, I don't know, the Blue Crag, you're not going to have a... Are you going to be generic? No. I thought you might have been damaged.
Is that what you want?
Anyway, if you compare that to a bodyguard for Blue Crag, where it isn't significantly larger... It's because I got the upgrade script turned on, so everyone's got custom bodyguards, which is cool. It just makes it a pain in the ass for its direct comparison. But the Blue Crag bodyguards aren't significantly larger, but they do have much worse stats, so they're just a much worse unit. So like the parity across bodyguards I find really off, and I'd rather the bodyguards in general were weaker. It's downplayed somewhat by the fact that you don't have anything. Well, you got custom generals, and then my other thing. Right, so I've queued these Sword Quendi this turn. There's already another. It's 8 turns till I can recruit another one. You as the elves, you get so many units. It feels more like I'm playing Gondor, honestly. I'd much rather have much rarer units, but are much more powerful. And admittedly, I know that this has been fixed for the most recent version. But on it's not compatible with my older one. So, yeah, it's not as bad, but my understanding is that they're still they're still much weaker than they are in DAC. Whereas I think that should be the baseline. I find that the direction that AGO has gone with the elves, I don't like to draw comparisons, but it's inevitable. Where they've made everyone incredibly elite, made the unit sizes much smaller, and the units are rarer. I find that a much more interesting take, and it fits my view of the elves better. I would rather see EUR go in that sort of a more creative direction rather than standardising. Basically, every unit's balance has been done based on a formula for trending, where like they've got the culture, and the race, and then the tier, and they'll do set plus or minus XYZ based on that. And I just don't think that works well for the elves. It trends them towards the mediocre when they should be balanced very differently, in my opinion. But like I said, it's probably better than balance was before the balance was done. And hats off to the balance team for doing it, because it is a massive job, and you're never going to get it perfectly right. And I know that they're proud of it, and fair enough, I respect that. But this to me, it doesn't feel like I'm playing the High Elves. And the other thing, balance-wise, this is more of a campaign balance, but the stack spam has been absolutely unbearable for me. I find it so tedious, the amount of battles that I'm having to fight. It's turn 45, and I reckon I've probably killed 30,000 to 40,000 Angmarim. They've just got so many armies,
scum.
and killing them doesn't seem to have any impact whatsoever. ND folded really quickly, but I don't know if that balance has changed up in subsequent patches, so it might be different for your game. But units recruit so quickly, and they're so cheap.
Was that your best shot?
These Hillmen, 125 gold in upkeep. It's nothing. It's an absolute pittance. So they can just spam so many of them. And from where their recruitment is so wide in my campaign, it hasn't helped because ND fell so quickly. But I really dislike how common the battles are because it makes them feel pointless. We probably do an average of 2 full stack battles per video in the High Elf campaign, and that's the majority of the video, and that's it. And then I spend all my money on recruiting new troops to try keep up with the amount of armies I'm having to face, because we're effectively fighting on 3 fronts. We've got the northern front here, the middle front, and then the southern front. And they're somewhat blending into one, but that's 3 different directions which we're having to just fight an absolute spam of enemies from. And I would rather the battles were rarer and more impactful instead, similar to how AGO does it. You can probably tell which mod I prefer here. And I'm sure that some people absolutely love that about EUR, but it does really put me off of it. I don't want to be fighting a massive battle or several massive battles every turn at turn 45. I want to be making more focused armies that serve a purpose, and building up my kingdom. I've really neglected my settlements because so much of my money is going on recruiting units to try fight back with, and I don't even feel like I feel overstretched. Like even here, we've got this army pushing this way. I've had to hastily get Glorfindel's army out without proper replenishment, to sort of try to do a counter attack. I've still got another reinforcing army coming this way. I killed one army up here last turn, I believe. Then they were also active down here. They pushed to him Ladris. We dealt with that last turn. And then there's just constant units everywhere. It's too much for me. But like I said, some people love that, I'm sure. I have no idea how long I've been going for. So yeah, in terms of that, there's just way too much going on in the campaign map. I would rather that I had to spend less on recruiting and I could focus on my settlements more, and that battles meant more because winning a battle led to a more decisive outcome. Sorry, I've got a cough a second. I've been doing a lot of talking. I'm back. So, we've probably been beating full stacks of Angmar back every turn to every other turn, sometimes twice a turn for 30 turns. That is a very rough guess. I'm not going to go back and check. And it's only just recently. Where's Angmar on here? They're somewhere. There we go. Only just recently they've started to plateau a bit. Like, if I look at the military ranking, it's even more recent that they've started to decline. It's just been absolute. It's become a slog. I'm probably in a 50-minute episode spending half an hour to 35 minutes in battles, just fighting the same trash stacks of Hillmen. Although they do appear to be recruiting more better units now.
Not to bant me, God.
I'm just a pain in the arse, really. We've still got a lot of units. And then, it's not been meaning much. Although we have been pushing in, to be fair. So yeah, that's that. In fact, let's switch over to the other campaign. Let's go for the latest Crag one. Ignore the numbers, they are wrong. Don't at me. And whilst I do that, I'm going to have a look at what my next point was as well. Oh, I should have stayed on the Elven one for this one. but it's fine, we can do it from here. The next point was going to be there's a really mixed bag in what they've added. Some of the models have been incredibly high quality, like all of the new stuff that's been done by Louis Lux or Armo, some of the kit bashes as well. There's been some really cool stuff made for EUR and released for it, and some genuinely like leading stuff. But then let's toggle Fog of War. And then toggle Perfect Spy. This is a command added with EOP, by the way, in case you didn't know. Helps if I can spell. And it just lets you see inside of armies. But if I look at Imladris, these Quendi units, they're like, they were removed from DAC. They're bloody old. It doesn't show as much here because they got the armor upgrade, but the base model of the sword Quendi, or all the Quendi in general, they're from Third Age Total War. They're probably 15 years old. DAC got rid of them, and EUR brought them back for the tier 1, and they don't look good. Unfortunately, they just don't hold up anymore. And like some of the roster choices as well, like if I come in here, these, where are they? These 3 units, the Wrathwag Warriors, Goblin Ravagers, and the Snagger Ravagers, especially the Goblin Ravagers and the Snagger Ravagers, I can barely tell them apart. In terms of performance and how they look, obviously the last one is less so for the Wrathwag Warriors, but focusing predominantly on these two, they're the same thing. 426, 638. You got a slight improvement, slightly different numbers, but effectively it's the exact same unit doing the exact same thing, and I can't tell the difference between them. I think that one of these units doesn't need to exist, and it could be a visual upgrade of the other. And that sort of thing where it's like the illusion of choice and the illusion of having a wider roster, when in reality you've got effectively the same thing but slightly different. I wouldn't notice any difference if these were the same one unit. But I know that's part of the charm of EUR, is it has got these massive rosters and people like that. So that's just a personal taste thing ultimately, really. But what was I gonna say next? Oh, we can actually find chariots here, I reckon.
Come and get me, you
There you go, the Fulani War Wagons. So there's 67. So there's 3 men per chariot. So there are 22 of these. 9 HP. 10 armor. They're tankier than cave trolls. Genuinely tankier than trolls. And the equivalent unit size. Absolute insane. I cannot believe that these stats made it through testing. Genuinely. No one's questioned these. And the guy who designed it, he wouldn't have known better because he's not played the game enough. But let's go back here.
Be gone.
I wasn't that army.
I will only address you in battle.
It's a glorified pallet with some shitty wheels and a crew of nothing and ponies. They're probably not actually ponies. 120% body piercing missiles. I didn't even notice that. What on earth? I'm annoyed again. Absolute insanity. So you've got a unit with 9 hit points. So effectively you've got to kill each one of these things 9 times. And the entire time it's got 12 missiles that are body piercing that it's going to be throwing at you with high accuracy and 120% movement speed. What are you meant to do against that thing? 120% body pierce. Insanity. It's the sort of thing that I expect to see in Dark Souls, not a Total War. No wonder it just was an absolute nightmare to counter. Those stats are absurd, but there's no context for it being absurd in the case of the balance team, because the lead balance dev doesn't understand the game. And again, credit where it's due, he stepped up when they needed someone, and he did it. Fair play. But I expect someone to be there checking his work and being like, no, this is insane. You don't need 12 body piercing missiles for 22 chariots with 9 hit points. You don't need to be that familiar. Well, you do need to be a bit familiar with the mod, but like anyone who's been playing should know that that's stupid. Entirely stupid for shitty a Ned wave. I don't like a Ned wave as a faction anyway. They're not even a popular one in the EUR. They've barely done any changes to them, but this thing has stuck in. I'm amazed that it didn't get reported. Actually, let's have a look at those defensive stats again. Where is it? Is this one? So we're looking 10 armor, 4 defense skill, 9 hit points. Alright, if we go for the... Oh, no, I can get one in Rafter Rag. I haven't actually built a beast cage yet. 3 armor, 5 defense skill, 13 hit points. They're arguably as tanky as trolls, especially with how high their armor is in comparison. Because, you know, the pallet, the IKEA delivery truck, is going to hold up compared to the thick skin of that troll. The stuff like that just drives me insane. There's so many things where you just stop and you think, hold on a minute, why is it like that? Why is Gondor got equivalent stats to the High Elves? Why have the chariots got that busted? Oh, they just, yeah, the balance is a sore point for me, as well as like some of the roster designs. But the balance is the single biggest thing which pulls this mod back, in my opinion, and the stack spam. Those are two things I struggle with. Yeah. So, on to the next point. I think I've laboured that enough. Let me just go back to my notes. I wrote him in a Discord message, and that chat's being quite active, so I'm having to scroll to it as well, which is helpful. So yeah, some of the overhaul scripts seem uninspired to me. If I was to describe this without naming a faction, so you get an event pop up, you find a character, you get a choice whether you go side with the character or against the character, and then the other half of your faction rebels against you based on which one you pick. Which of the 4 paths am I describing there in this mod? Am I describing the Dour Hands, the Blue Crag, Eregion, or the Noldor? The answer is A, B, C, D. Like, all 4 of those is the same thing. Like, I would have rathered that they added a bit more nuance to some of the scripts, so that you had slightly different repercussions rather than a load of your armies, a load of your people rebel with a load of elite units that just pop up out of nowhere, and then you get turbo fucked by them, or it's fine. I'm not actually at that stage yet in my campaign, but I know it happens. And I'm not looking forward to that at all, especially with how stretched thin we are in the Ladris campaign particularly. We're going to get shafted. And I feel like there's a more creative direction that could have been taken with more nuance. I don't know, maybe you have to manage your orc and your dwarven population together and do stuff to keep them happy, and then if you fail at that, they rebel. Or, well, yeah, I don't know. I've not really put too much thought into what I would do differently, or what could have been done differently, because they were already pretty set on the path they were taking, and fair enough. But I do think it's unfortunate that they didn't stop and think a bit more about how each of those things could be a bit more unique. So yeah, that's most of what I'd say there. Yeah, I've already mentioned it. The unit bloat is still a thing. I found that stability is an issue. I've had a fair few crashes, more than I'd get in like AGO or DAC when playing this mod. But obviously, I'm on an older version. There's been a lot of fixes since then. But then those fixes have caused other stability issues in people's games, like the swings and roundabouts. There was a lot of stuff which I would have surprised that the testers didn't pick up. Like if I find a unit of my lovely Warg Riders, the one in here. These guys, you can even see it in the preview picture. They're not sat in the saddles, they're sat on the back of the Warg. It might even be more extreme in game. Like, it looks almost bestiality-like. It's not ideal. And then slingers with arrow not arrow animations, but arrow sound effects. There's units that are archers that don't have bows. There's so much stuff which got missed. I think it's been fixed now again, but I've been surprised at the amount of stuff that snuck through testing, because this mod was really vigorously tested. Like Perry went on a significant. I'm doing a terrible job of not naming names, aren't I? But like he did that. Everyone in the Discord, everyone knows or could know. So he did a big recruitment drive for beta testers, wanted set testers for every faction, and it seemed like it was working really well, and they're getting a lot of feedback. But the amount of stuff that they've missed to me is insane. Like, there's a lot of stuff which went out which I would expect to have been fixed. Well, sorry, not fixed, reported and noticed and fixed. Whether it's by a developer checking it in game, or whether it's by a tester noticing it in game. Yeah, I feel like I've found a new issue in most videos. Whether it's like incorrect sprites, or the sound effects, or slingers doing weird overarching shots over walls and settlements, even though they're relatively direct fire weapons. It's just been quite a bit of odd stuff. But yeah, like I said, they've been active in fixing things since when it's been reported. And that's actually everything that I was going to mention. So in total, it is a good mod. There are a lot of good ideas. There's a lot of cool stuff that's been made. Loads of people have put hard work into it, and there have been loads of people that have been enjoying it. And it's good that it's reached this point where it's been released. It's more than I can say for Gondor War. So but they got something out there that is working that people are enjoying, and that's fantastic. It's not really the right mod for me. I do prefer AGO, as you can probably tell from the several examples that I've made. The slightly slower pacing and the less desperation on spamming out units to match the AI spamming out units, because the recruitment times are longer, works much better for me. I really do prefer that much more. But if you prefer EUR and you like the chaos and the massive rosters and everything that's going on, I completely understand that. I think if I had to summarise it, I'd call it a 6 out of 10, personally. Right, but with the balance issues were fixed more in line with what I would expect in Middle Earth, then I could really easily shoot up to an 8 out of 10. There is still a great baseline package with fixes applied and balance sorted. The mod's got a ton of potential, and I'm glad that it exists, and there's so much work has gone into it, and they've made so much cool things. Like, there's stuff that I found inspiring as a modder. Sorry, I had a little hiccup there. Stuff I found inspiring as a modder here, and part of that is definitely the dedication of the team. So I would like to end this just by thanking them for everything they've done, and because they've given a ton of time and effort into a community project which very few people have made money from, and the only way they have been made money from it is by commissions from the developers. So the development team itself hasn't made any money from this. So the amount of time and effort that's gone into it is commendable, regardless of how much I like the. Sorry, that's not a good way to put it. But regardless of whether the mod's to my taste, I've got a huge amount of respect for the time and skills that went into it. And I've met some people that I consider good friends through EUR. So it's been a great journey for me as well. And obviously this channel wouldn't exist in its current format without it. I did a terrible job with the Dale campaign, so he got abandoned after 2 episodes. I've had a massive boost of life into this channel because of this mod release too. So, I know that the devs are always keen on feedback. Don't let what I said about some of the feedback being met with a mixed response impact your will to actually leave feedback. They'll probably see in the comments in this video as well, and I'd be really interested to hear what people think. Whether people agree with me, or they absolutely love everything in EUR. Obviously, that's amazing if you do. Like, everyone wants this mod to succeed, or any mod to succeed. So, it would be a real fucking. Sorry, I don't know why I said fucking there. I was like, it could be a real fucking shame if it was to fail. But like, it's not gonna fail. It's already the EUR Discord's thriving. Like that's a good sign of life for any mod. Is a player base like the Discord being active with more than 5 people in it looking at you Gondor at war. Yeah, it's shameless like self burn there. So yeah, that's my verdict. It will be the best mod ever to some people, but unfortunately I'm not one of those people. So thank you all for watching. Please share your own comments and opinions, whether it's in the Discord or here. It's always interesting to hear what the community thinks. It's been a pleasure, and goodbye. I don't need to save and quit for once. That's really throwing me. This feels wrong. Bye.